I never expected the one who stabbed me in the back would be the very person I trusted most. If you've ever experienced betrayal, leave a comment and share your story. And don't forget to like and subscribe so you can follow me through this journey of my own. I'm Jessica Brown, sitting in a law office in Chicago, the fluorescent lights casting down on a desk buried in case files. Just a few days left until the trial that would determine my career. But when I logged into the international legal database account that I shared with Nathan, my husband, and Nathan Brooks, to cut costs, a line of text on the screen made my heart stop. How to challenge the admissibility of audio evidence. The most crucial piece of evidence in my case was a recorded conversation. Who had looked up how to destroy it? My hand trembled slightly as I picked up the phone and called Nathan, who was on a business trip in New York at the time. On the other end, he hesitated for a second, then burst out laughing, his voice echoing through the speaker. "Oh, the new intern, Lauren. Borrowed the account last week, probably forgot to log out. What's up, babe?" I gave a faint smile, lips pressed tightly together to hide the storm of doubt rising in my chest. "Nothing. Just checking." I hung up, eyes locked on the computer screen, where the backup of that audio file was tucked away on a separate hard drive. Lauren Hayes, my direct opponent in this trial, representing the defendant for the opposing firm. She used to be an intern, hired by Nathan himself. My thoughts spun out of control. Why would Nathan let her access our shared account? What was he hiding? I stared at the screen, where the backup file was stored safely, then plugged in another USB drive to copy additional documents. On the morning of the trial, I arrived early. Nathan was already there, sitting in the front row of the gallery, looking sharp in his gray suit, as polished and charming as ever. He smiled at me and said softly, "You've got this." I returned a faint smile, lips curling just enough to mask the suspicion. But my eyes quickly drifted past him, landing on the woman seated beside him. Lauren Hayes. She wore a fitted black suit dress, elegant and professional, her blonde hair pulled back high, highlighting a face full of confidence. She tilted her head toward Nathan, her eyes shimmering with admiration, like he was the hero in her story. Nathan leaned in, whispered something in her ear. Lauren blushed, smiled quietly, and smoothed the edge of her skirt, as if trying to hide her nervousness. If it hadn't been for that search history, I might have been fooled by the image of my perfect husband. I turned away, walked up to the counsel's table, and clenched the USB drive tighter in my pocket. The trial began. The air in the courtroom was heavy, like a dense fog. I stood up first, my voice clear, each word carefully chosen like a sharp blade. "Your Honor, this recording is not only legal, but is irrefutable. Evidence of the defendant's fraudulent actions." I pressed play on the recorder, and the trembling voice of the witness filled the room, making a few people in the gallery bow their heads slightly, as if they themselves were hearing a long-hidden truth. Everything unfolded exactly as I had predicted, or at least imagined. The opposing side attacked the admissibility of the recording. I calmly rebutted each point. When it was Lauren's turn to speak, the entire courtroom seemed to hold its breath. She rose slowly, the fitted black suit hugging her figure, each step steady and poised. Her voice was articulate, confident. The arguments she presented hit precisely at the weak points in my chain of evidence, every phrase carefully crafted, with familiar expressions that only I would recognize. Evidence manipulation, unfair advantage. The exact words Nathan often used during our late-night practice sessions at the office, when he'd sit beside me, his hand gently brushing my shoulder, whispering like a loving husband. And there, in the gallery, Nathan looked at her with pride in his eyes narrowed, lips curled into a half-smile, like he was admiring a masterpiece of his own making. He leaned back into the wooden bench, arms crossed, thumb gently stroking his chin. And in that moment, I saw it clearly. That wasn't the gaze of a husband supporting his wife. It was that of a mentor admiring his protege, or worse, a lover savoring the performance of his mistress. So I was the outsider all along. The thought pierced through my chest like a cold blade, stealing my breath. My hand clenched beneath the table, turning white, nails digging into my palm, as if to remind myself to stay composed. From law school to our wedding day, Nathan and I had spent 10 years together. I always believed we were soulmates, teammates on the same front line. But it turns out, he had already chosen a different companion. And me, I was just a stepping stone to his new romance, a worn-out chapter he flipped past to reach the next page. The trial ended, and the judge's gavel struck, the sound echoing like a final verdict. Evidence is accepted. Plaintiff wins the case. The courtroom buzzed with murmurs. The opposing lawyers bowed their heads, whispering among themselves. Stepping out of the courthouse, the chilly Chicago air slapped my face. Nathan rushed toward me, reaching for my hand. "I knew you'd do it," he said, in that familiar affectionate tone, his eyes glinting like they always did after a victory. But now it just stung, like salt in a raw wound. I subtly stepped aside, brushing back my hair as naturally as I could to hide the trembling in my fingers. "Your intern, Nathan, was brilliant." "I nearly lost," I said. The smile on his face stiffened slightly, his eyes narrowing for just a second before he quickly composed himself, patting my shoulder gently. "She's new. Gotta let them train somehow." Lauren followed behind, standing just slightly behind him, her voice soft. "Jessica, you were amazing. I still have so much to learn." But her eyes gleamed with provocation, those blue eyes catching the golden light of dusk, the corners of her mouth curling in a silent challenge, her hand clenching the strap of her black leather bag. I smiled, a cold smile that spread like fog, and let my eyes drift to her wrist. A sparkling Tiffany & Company bracelet glinting in the sunlight, the tiny heart-shaped charm engraved with a delicate J that I recognized instantly. My birthday gift from last month. Nathan told me he had it custom designed, only one in the world. And now it was on Lauren's wrist, glimmering like mockery. Just one glance from me, Lauren instinctively tucked her hand behind her back. Nathan's face changed in an instant, from smug to panicked. His cheeks flushed red, fists clenched at his side, and his voice came out rushed, like he was trying to cover something up. "What do you want for dinner tonight? I'll make a reservation." He stepped closer, trying to touch me again. "Don't bother. I've got work at the office," I replied coolly. I slid into the driver's seat, shut the car door, and through the rearview mirror, I saw them, standing shoulder to shoulder. Nathan turned to Lauren, his hand resting gently on her back, whispering something that made her giggle, a perfect picture of betrayal. In the end, I couldn't hold it in. I collapsed against the steering wheel, my shoulders trembling, hot tears streaming down my cheeks, soaking into my sleeve. The phone buzzed in my pocket, cutting through the stream of tears. A message from Chris Morgan, the private investigator I'd hired in secret. "Jessica, got it. Gotta say, Nathan's damn careful. If he's not working for the CIA, it's a waste." I took a deep breath, wiped my tears with the back of my hand, and started the engine. But I didn't drive home. Instead, I cruised through the busy streets of Chicago, neon lights sliding across my windows, like blurred streaks of color, guiding me toward Chris Morgan's office. The private investigator, my college friend, and the only person I trusted right now. Chris was waiting inside, those sharp brown eyes still carrying the same edge from our law school days. He slid a brown paper bag across the wooden desk, voice calm and low. "Spare key to your garage," and footage pulled from Nathan's Mercedes-Benz dash cam. I took the bag, my fingers gripping the rough paper, feeling the weight of the secrets inside. Nathan recently bought a new Mercedes, said it made him look more businesslike when meeting clients. He treasured that car like it was sacred, kept the keys on him at all times. Even I, his wife, was barely allowed to touch it. but Chris had pulled it off. "Oh, and I dug into the girl, Lauren Hayes," Chris added, fingers gliding over the keyboard as a detailed file popped up on his screen. "Clean record, normal family, smart. But recently, she's doing well, real well. Bought a BMW in cash last month, just closed on a condo in downtown Chicago." He looked up, his eyes locking with mine, heavy with implication. "A fresh out of school intern. Where's all that money coming from?" No need to say it out loud. I felt my stomach twist like I'd swallowed a block of ice, but my face stayed composed. I just nodded slightly. "Thanks, Chris." "Send me the invoice," I said, my voice dry, hand gripping the folder so tight my nails dug into my palm. Chris waved it off, flashing that familiar crooked grin from our college days. "Don't be so formal." But then he hesitated, brows knitting together, his voice dropping. "Just one thing. You really gonna go through with this?" "Nathan, he's—" I cut him off, my gaze cold as steel. "I chose him. I was blind. Now I fixed that myself." The words rang out sharp, but inside the storm still howled. 10 years of trust, 10 years of love, now reduced to ash. I stood up and walked out of the office. "I know exactly what I'm doing," I said, without looking back. Late at night, I used the spare key to unlock the front door. The living room was pitch dark, the shadows cloaking everything in a thick, suffocating layer. Nathan wasn't home. The house was silent. No soft hum of the TV, no scent of the strong black coffee he usually brewed late into the night. I changed out of my shoes, slipped off the glossy black heels, placing them gently on the floor, my bare feet sinking into the soft carpet. I didn't turn on the lights. I walked straight to the study. Nathan's computer screen was still glowing with the screensaver, a soft blue light radiating from the dark corner, casting a glow across the polished mahogany desk stacked with folders. I sat down in his black leather chair, the cold leather seeping through my suit dress, my fingers hovering over the keyboard. I typed in his birthday, but the screen flashed. Incorrect password. I tried again. Our wedding anniversary, still wrong. My heart pounded, breath tightening in my chest like a knot. My eyes fell on the image of a white BMW on the screensaver, its glossy curves glowing under the dim light. A symbol of luxury, and suddenly, something clicked. I typed in the license plate number of Lauren's BMW, the one Chris had just traced for me, my fingers trembling against the sleek black keys. The computer dinged, unlocked, the screen lighting up all at once. My heart clenched, breath caught midair, a sharp ache radiating from my chest to every limb, forcing me to inhale deeply, hand gripping the arm of the leather chair. The desktop was empty. No cluttered icons, no family pictures like before. Just a single folder named Starlight Merger. That folder, that name, I knew it all too well. It was the biggest merger deal of the year at our law firm, involving hundreds of millions of dollars. Massive figures I had spent months planning for, countless exhausting meetings. I was the project lead, the one who held all the secrets. I opened the folder, the mouse clicking softly beneath my fingers. Inside was just one encrypted file, a gold lock icon glinting under the glow of the screen. I tried a few passwords, Lauren's birthday, the license plate, even her name, but nothing worked. I leaned back into the chair, the cold leather pressing against my spine. I closed my eyes for a moment, letting the darkness wrap around me. "Nathan, just how many secrets are you still hiding from me?" The next morning, I got up early as usual and toasted a bagel for breakfast. From behind, Nathan suddenly wrapped his arms around me, his chin resting lightly on my shoulder, warm breath brushing against my neck. His voice was husky, still sleepy. "Babe, why'd you come home so late last night?" I froze, the knife pausing midair, but my voice stayed calm. Something urgent came up at work. I spread cream cheese on the bagel, each movement slow and steady, my fingers unconsciously tightening around the white plastic handle of the knife. "And you? Didn't you say you were meeting a client?" Nathan tightened his arms around my waist, his breath faltering for a second. Then he let out a soft laugh. Yeah, drank too much. Ended up crashing at the hotel. He tilted his head, his lips brushing lightly against my ear, whispering, Sorry, I've been busy lately. Haven't spent enough time with you. I turned off the stove. Turning around, I looked straight into that handsome face, those deep blue eyes, the slightly tousled brown hair, the smile that once made my heart race. Nathan, we're husband and wife. If something's going on, I hope you won't keep it from me. He looked at me, a flash of panic flickering in his eyes, before he quickly smiled, lips curving into that usual confident grin. Of course! What could I possibly be hiding from you? But that smile didn't reach his eyes, and in that instant, he felt like a stranger. The man I had lived with for 5 years. Turns out, I never really knew him. I turned back around, bit into the bagel, the cream cheese melting on my tongue, but all it did was make my stomach twist. The Starlight merger meeting was set for Friday, and the atmosphere in the company's boardroom was tense. Sunlight from the large windows reflected off the long polished table, casting sharp lines across the stern faces of senior partners. I project lead sat at the head. I presented the updates, my voice steady and clear, each figure and clause delivered with cold precision. We've completed 80% of the contract, but the technical terms still need strengthening to avoid legal risk. When I reached a key clause, I paused, fingers tapping lightly on the table. I looked up, locking eyes with Nathan seated at the far end, his gray suit as sharp as ever, but his shoulders noticeably stiff. For this point, we need a more thorough risk assessment. Attorney Nathan, does your side have a specialist assigned? Nathan froze, the pen he'd been twirling suddenly still. He adjusted his glasses slowly. Of course. Our top team is ready to support, I smiled, lips curving just slightly, eyes still locked on him. That's great. I've heard Ms. Lauren Hayes on your team has deep knowledge in this area. Let's have her lead the next part, shall we? The moment the words left my mouth, the whole room fell silent. Senior partners exchanged surprised glances. A few cleared their throats. Everyone knew Lauren was just an intern, not a specialist fit to handle the core component of a multi-million-dollar project. Let her lead? Ridiculous. Nathan's expression darkened, veins showing on the back of his clenched hand. His eyes shot toward me, silently warning, What game are you playing, Jessica? But I held his gaze, calm and unfazed, the same faint smile on my lips. What's wrong? Attorney Nathan, do you find that unsuitable? My voice was gentle, but every word landed like a sharp sting, cutting into his pride. A senior partner, his salt and pepper hair and gravelly voice lending weight to the moment, spoke up, his lips tightening in discomfort. Isn't it a bit reckless to assign such a critical task to an intern? A few others nodded in agreement, eyes drifting toward me, waiting for an answer. I took a sip of coffee, the bitterness sliding down my throat, the ceramic mug brushing against my lips before I set it down. You worry too much. I trust Attorney Nathan's judgment. A student trained by him surely can't be mediocre. And the young, they deserve a shot too, don't they? Every word, every phrase, were his own lines used to dismiss my concerns before, she's new, gotta let her train. And now, I returned them intact. The room fell quiet again, eyes shifting toward Nathan, waiting for his reaction. His lips pressed into a hard line, as if holding back a storm. He knew I was cornering him. If he objected, he'd be admitting Lauren was unqualified, an attack on his own reputation in front of the firm. If he agreed, he'd be risking everything, the project and his name. He looked at me, eyes burning with fury and helplessness, then gritted his teeth. Fine. As Director Jessica says, faces around the room lit up, some partners curling their lips into smirks, like they were watching a masterful chess game unfold. Then it's settled. Meeting adjourned, I stood up, not looking back. Back in my room, I locked the door behind me and leaned against the cold wooden surface, the chill seeping through my clothes. Only then did I realize my body was trembling, small waves of shock radiating from my fingertips to my chest. My hand gripped the file folder tightly, as if clinging to the last shred of control. My phone buzzed. Nathan's message lit up the screen. "Jessica, what do you even want?" I stared at the words. A cold smile crept across my lips as my finger slid over the screen. I deleted the message, then blocked his number. What do I want? I want to see just how far he'll go for the woman he loves. That weekend, I drove out to visit my parents in the suburbs of Chicago, the familiar road stretching past fields of golden corn under the autumn sun, cool breeze slipping through the car window, carrying the scent of dry grass and childhood memories. When I stepped into the white wooden house, with its porch lined with wildflowers, my mother, her silver hair neatly tied up, her brown eyes always gentle, saw me alone and her brows furrowed slightly, voice laced with surprise and concern. "Nathan? Away on business again?" I set the box of health supplements down on the kitchen table and replied, "Yeah, he's really busy." She looked at me, eyes searching, but didn't press further, just nodded, smoothing the edge of her blue apron to hide the worry in her hands. My father emerged from his study, holding an old book, his silver-framed glasses sliding down his nose. He looked at me, his gaze sharp yet kind. "If something's going on between you two, talk it out." "Don't bottle it up," I smiled, trying to keep my voice steady. "I know, Dad." But my eyes drifted to the family photo on the wooden shelf. Me, Nathan, and my parents on our wedding day. After dinner, my mother hosted a small gathering in the backyard. A white cloth draped over the outdoor wooden table, lined with neatly cut sandwiches and fresh green salad. My childhood favorite. Laughter from neighbors filled the air, blending with the rustling of leaves in the wind. But I sat there, holding a glass of wine, my eyes distant and disconnected. My mother walked over, her floral dress fluttering lightly, as she laid a hand on my shoulder, voice soft but laced with worry. "Jessica, is something going on with you and Nathan?" I said nothing, my fingers tightening around the stem of the glass, the string lights above reflecting off the rim like shards of a broken marriage. "Mom! If Dad ever did something unforgivable, what would you do?" The question slipped out, my voice hoarse like I had to dig it out from somewhere deep. My mother froze, her eyes narrowing before she unexpectedly pulled me into a tight hug, her warm arms wrapped around me, the familiar scent of lavender making my nose sting. "No matter what, just remember this. Family is always here for you," she whispered, her voice like a promise carved in stone. My eyes burned, the tears welling up, but I bit my lip and nodded, holding them back in her embrace. Leaving my parents' house, I drove aimlessly through the city. Eventually, as if pulled by some invisible force, I found myself parked outside Lauren's luxury condo building. I cut the engine, the silence inside the car thick and suffocating. I sat there, hands still resting on the wheel, eyes fixed on the entrance. After a while, the sleek black Mercedes-Benz, the birthday gift I had given Nathan, glided into the parking lot. Nathan stepped out, circled around, and opened the passenger door, his movements gentle, almost tender. Lauren got out, wearing a tight red dress, her golden hair glowing under the streetlights. She rose on her toes and kissed his cheek, her smile radiant. Nathan laughed, his arm wrapping around her waist, pulling her in close as they walked into the building, disappearing behind the glass doors. In that moment, the blood in my veins felt frozen, my heart pounding so hard it felt like it would crack through my ribs. So this is what his business trips were. So this is what late nights at work really meant. The marriage I thought was real was nothing but a polished lie. I picked up my phone, fingers trembling as I scrolled and tapped. When Chris Morgan's deep, steady voice answered on the other end, I spoke, my tone ice cold. "Chris, I need you to do something for me." I paused, took a deep breath, eyes still locked on the door where Nathan and Lauren had just disappeared. "I want Nathan and Lauren To lose everything. On Monday, I arrived at the law firm 30 minutes early. The streets of Chicago were still wrapped in morning mist, the hum of distant buses, like the city whispering itself awake. I stepped into the office, my heels tapping a steady rhythm against the cold marble floor, my reflection gliding beneath me. Navy blue blazer crisp and straight, but my shoulders slightly slumped under the weight of last night's secrets. On my desk, a steaming cup of coffee sent tendrils of heat into the air, the smell of caramel blending with bitter black roast, and next to it, a sandwich from my favorite cafe, its golden wrapper glowing under the fluorescent lights. A sticky note rested beside it, Nathan's familiar looping handwriting. "Babe, don't be mad. Let me make it up to you tonight." I picked up the sandwich, my fingers tightening around the crinkling paper, then tossed it straight into the metal trash can. The dull thud echoed like the anger boiling inside me. I powered up my computer. With a soft ding, the screen lit up. New email. Sender, Lauren Hayes. Subject, Preliminary Risk Assessment Proposal for Starlight Merger. I clicked open, my hand moving slowly with the mouse. The attachment, a PowerPoint file, downloaded with a faint buzz from the speaker. I scrolled through. Each slide appeared sharp and polished. Elegant layout, clean blue-toned charts, thorough analysis. Better than I expected, like a flawless piece crafted by a professional hand. In the bottom right corner of every slide, a tiny logo caught my eye. 2 interwoven initials, N and L, delicately stylized. Nathan and Lauren. My chest tightened, a sharp ache radiating from my heart like someone had gripped it with ice. So he used the work we built to pave the way for his mistress. I closed the email, the mouse click sounding firm and final, and plugged in Chris's USB. The black plastic glinted beneath the desk lamp. Inside was a video file. I hit play. The screen was dark at first, then flickered into a shaky image, but the audio rang out crisp and sharp from the speakers, like a direct accusation. The footage. The basement garage beneath Lauren's condo. Dim yellow neon lights casting shadows across the damp concrete floor, reflecting off the body of a sleek car. Nathan and Lauren were arguing intensely. His voice was low, seething, controlled, but cutting like a blade. "Are you insane?" Jessica's already suspicious, and you still dared to provoke her openly? Lauren screamed, her voice shrill, her face flushed red under the dim light. I provoked her? Nathan, wake up, I'm helping you. Without me, where would you get the core documents for Starlight merger? Without me, how would you keep Jessica wrapped around your finger? Nathan stepped closer, gripping her shoulders hard, voice growling, I'm warning you, Lauren. Don't forget the deal. When this is done, the money is yours. Jessica is mine. Screw this up and you lose everything. Lauren laughed coldly, shoving his hands off, voice thick with challenge. Oh, threatening me? Nathan, don't forget. I've got proof of all your dirty tricks. We're in the same boat. If it sinks, no one survives. The video cut out abruptly, the screen going black, leaving their words echoing in my mind. I replayed it again and again, my finger hitting the replay button with a repeated click, each line carving into my chest like a scar that wouldn't heal. So it wasn't just betrayal. It was a scheme, aimed straight at me. I shot up, the leather chair creaking loudly beneath me, and rushed toward the company's records room, heels pounding down the empty hallway, their rhythm like the beating drum of a storm brewing. All the physical documents were kept in a secure cabinet, the cold steel biting against my fingertips as I unlocked it. Only I and William Turner, the deputy director, had keys. The metal glinted under the neon light. I turned the key. The lock clicked open, and the files were there. Neatly stacked papers, the faint scent of old ink lingering. I flipped through the pages, fingers gliding over the smooth texture, heart sinking like a stone when I spotted faint signs of photocopying, subtle faded edges like the ghost of betrayal. I pulled up the archive room's security footage. The black and white monitor buzzed softly, then lit up with grainy images. Last Thursday night, after I'd left the office, A shadowy figure appeared under the dim emergency lighting, moving stealthily. It was Nathan. He used my backup access card, the white plastic one I had once handed him in a rush, swiped it across the reader. Beep. He entered the room, opened the cabinet like it was second nature, rifled through the files like a seasoned thief, copied documents to the hum of the machine, then returned everything and slipped out. All in 10 minutes, every move rehearsed like a stage play. That same night, he called me cheerfully. "I'll be home late, babe," out meeting a client. Staring at that familiar figure on screen, broad shoulders, steady stride, now just a stranger. I felt a chill seep through me from head to toe, like the blood in my body had frozen solid. Turns out the biggest fool was me. I returned to my office, picked up the phone, and dialed William Turner, a tall man with silver white hair and piercing eyes. The very man my father once mentored when he was still a passionate young lawyer. After 3 rings, his warm, steady voice came through. "Jessica, what's going on?" "William, about the Starlight merger. I have some new thoughts. I'd like to meet privately to discuss," I said. He paused for a second, then replied, "All right." We arranged to meet at a small cafe downstairs from the firm. William sat across from me, crisp gray suit in place, his calloused hands resting calmly on the table, waiting. I placed a USB in front of him, along with printed stills from the surveillance video, images of Nathan sneaking into the records room, then played the recording of his argument with Lauren from my phone. The audio spilled from the tiny speaker, each word sharp and unmistakable. William's expression slowly darkened, his brows tightening, eyes narrowing with every passing line, until his face looked like a thundercloud. His fist slammed the table. "That bastard!" he growled. The white porcelain coffee cup toppled, dark liquid spilling across the wooden table, dripping onto the floor. "Jessica, what are you planning to do?" he asked, voice gravelly, his gaze filled with anger and worry, as if a father was staring at his own daughter. I looked at him, took a deep breath, and said, each word crisp, "William, I want them held fully accountable for everything they've done, everything they took from us. I'll make sure they return it." He sat in silence for a moment, then nodded slowly, his hand resting over mine, warm and steady. "All right." "Whatever you need, just ask," I smiled. On Friday, the final due diligence meeting for the Starlight merger was held in the firm's largest conference room. All senior executives and partners were present. Nathan and Lauren, representing the law firm, sat in the front row. Nathan wore his usual gray suit, Lauren in a form-fitting black one, flawlessly made up with bold red lipstick and sharp eyeliner, radiating confidence. She sat close to Nathan, occasionally leaning in to whisper, her hand brushing his arm with practiced ease, so much so that a few staff members frowned. The meeting began, and I stood at the head of the table to summarize the project. Then I shifted tone. "Before we finalize the plan, I believe a few internal matters need to be addressed." My eyes locked onto Nathan. He froze. "Nathan, I heard your law firm recently took on a merger case similar to Starlight. How's that going?" Nathan's face changed instantly, from confident to pale in a heartbeat, his blue eyes narrowing in panic. "Director Jessica, what are you implying?" he snapped, voice strained at the edges. "Nothing," I replied, pressing the remote. The projector lit up, displaying the bright Future Corp. Logo in bold white on the screen. "Starlight's biggest competitor. I'm just curious. Why would our legal counsel, Attorney Nathan, take on a case for a direct competitor? Isn't that a breach of industry regulations?" The room erupted in whispers, murmurs spreading like ripples. Partners exchanged stunned looks. All eyes turned to Nathan like sharp arrows. He shot up, voice raised. "Lies! Our firm has never accepted a case from Bright Future." His face flushed red, neck veins visible, his trembling finger pointed at me. "Really?" I clicked the remote again. The screen flipped to a scanned contract, Bright Future signed with a small consulting firm. The legal representative listed Lauren's father. Then came the audio, a phone call between Nathan and Bright Future's CEO, Stephen Grant. Nathan outlined the entire Starlight deal, promising to secure our final pricing numbers. "Nathan! You traitor!" a senior partner exploded, his face turning beet red with rage. Nathan's face drained of all color, sweat beading on his forehead, eyes darting like a trapped animal. Lauren beside him looked horrified, her nails digging into his arm, eyes wide in panic. "Nathan! You!" Her voice cracked, but he shoved her hand away, turned sharply toward me, voice shaking. "Jessica, what are you doing?" "Director Jessica, explain this," shareholders demanded, brows furrowed in suspicion. I stood, my voice loud and clear, echoing through the room. "It's simple." Attorney Nathan Brooks exploited his position to commit trade secret theft, leaking confidential information to Bright Future to rig the bidding process for illegal gain. This is a direct violation of the Illinois Trade Secrets Act and may lead to criminal prosecution and millions in damages. My gaze landed on Nathan, cold as ice. "Tell me, Nathan, was I wrong?" He looked at me, shocked, furious, terrified. Those once tender eyes, now nothing but a pit of betrayal. He clearly never imagined his grand scheme would be exposed so publicly, by the very woman he once viewed as his stepping stone. The conference room erupted in chaos, the shouting and furious whispers of the shareholders crashing like waves against a cliff. Nathan took a step back, attempting to bolt for the door, but it burst open, and two tall security guards in black uniforms rushed in, grabbing his arms. He thrashed, his gray suit disheveled, but he couldn't break free. Lauren collapsed into her chair, her once bright blue eyes now clouded with panic. Her tightly tied blonde hair had come loose in strands, trembling with each shallow breath. I stepped up to her. Leaning down, my eyes locked onto hers. "Lauren, do you know the maximum sentence for corporate espionage?" She looked up, speechless, her body trembling. "No, it wasn't me. It was him. It was Nathan. He forced me," she screamed, pointing straight at him. "It was him." "He threatened my career, said if I didn't help, I'd never make it in law. Jessica, please believe me. I was coerced." "Coerced," I said, tilting my head. "And when you used his money to buy that BMW and that downtown condo, did you remember you were being coerced then?" I unlocked my phone and played the surveillance footage. Lauren, beaming like sunlight, clinging to Nathan's arm, standing proudly beside the shiny white BMW. She took the keys from his hand. The conference room door swung open again. This time it was the police. 3 officers in uniform entered. "Nathan Brooks, Lauren Hayes, you are under arrest on suspicion of trade secret theft." Nathan was dragged away, his eyes blazing with hatred, burning into me as if trying to set me on fire. "Jessica, you're a monster!" he screamed. I stepped in, leaned close to his ear. "A monster?" "Nathan, this is just the beginning. Everything you owe me. I will collect." My voice was low, steady, and it made his body go rigid, his eyes flickering with the realization that he had lost. Completely. Lauren was escorted out right after. The circus was over. Mr. Davis stepped up to me, placing a hand on my shoulder, his eyes filled with gratitude. "Jessica, thank you. Without you, the damage to the company would have been unthinkable." I nodded. "I only did what needed to be done." He looked at me, concern flickering in his gaze. "We'll put the Starlight merger on hold for now." "You should take some time off." I nodded again, saying nothing more. Stepping out of the building, the bright Chicago sunlight poured down on me. I inhaled deeply, clean air filling my lungs. No more suffocating stench of betrayal. I drove back to the house I once shared with Nathan. What used to be a safe harbor now felt completely unfamiliar. In the dressing room, I pulled out the suitcase I had packed and started gathering my things. I didn't have much. It didn't take long. Finally, I took off the diamond ring from my finger, the light catching the stone beneath the lamp. reflecting the memory of the day Nathan got down on one knee. I placed the ring on the nightstand, the cold clang of metal against wood sounding like a period, the end of a sentence. "Goodbye, Nathan," I whispered. "Goodbye, 10 years of love." I rolled the suitcase out of the house, the door slamming shut behind me, severing all ties to the past. I moved back into my parents' home. When my mother saw me pulling the suitcase, her gentle eyes flickered with concern, but she didn't ask anything, just quietly tidied up my old room. She placed a plate of my favorite sandwiches on the dining table. Dad sat on the sofa, newspaper unfolded in his hands, but his eyes were empty, his silver-rimmed glasses slipping down his nose. I knew they were worried, but didn't want to pressure me. "Dad, Mom, I'm okay," I said, trying to keep my voice steady, wiping my mouth with a napkin. "I just want to stay home for a few days." Mom's eyes turned red, her hand trembling as she placed it over mine. Warm, but full of sorrow. Dad let out a long sigh, his voice low and steady. "It's good you came home." That night, I lay on my old bed, the floral sheets from high school still soft, but I couldn't sleep. Near dawn, my phone rang. Chris's name lit up. "Jessica, Nathan just made bail. He's out, awaiting trial." His voice heavy. I wasn't surprised. Behind him was a team of top-tier lawyers, people who could turn black into white. Chris continued. "First thing he did when he got out was meet with Stephen Grant from Bright Future. My guy lost the tail. No idea what they talked about." I gripped the phone tightly. "I understand." "Nathan, you think this is over? How naive." I jumped out of bed, changed clothes, then did my makeup, precise and sharp. The woman staring back at me in the mirror looked strong, radiant. I called my father's secretary. "Mr. Price, can you help me arrange a meeting with Stephen Grant from Bright Future? Tell him I've got a business proposal. My father's company and Bright Future had been rivals for years. But in business, there are no eternal enemies, only shared interests." Stephen and I met at a private club in downtown Chicago. The space was luxurious, with warm yellow lighting, hints of mahogany and whiskey in the air, and soft jazz piano floating around us. Stephen Grant, around 50, well-maintained, silver at the temples but youthful in face, wearing a perfectly tailored gray suit, walked in with a polished smile. Seeing me, he looked slightly surprised, his brow arching. "Ms. Jessica Brown?" "A pleasure. What brings you here today?" "Mr. Grant," I smiled, voice calm but direct. "I came to offer you a very generous gift." I placed a USB on the table. "What's this?" Stephen frowned, taking the USB and spinning it between his fingers as if weighing its contents. "Take a look," I said, eyes fixed on him, lips curving into a quiet smile. Stephen plugged it into his laptop. The screen lit up with documents Nathan had stolen from Starlight Merger, along with a voice recording of Nathan, low and confident, promising to help Bright Future win the bid. "I have the final pricing. We can beat Starlight." More importantly, it contained Nathan's secret plan with senior partners, an insider scheme to short Bright Future stock. The strategy: exploit inside info from Starlight Merger to drive Bright Future's stock price up, then leak bribery scandals to crash it, reaping massive profits. Nathan was a ticking time bomb planted inside Bright Future. Stephen's face turned pale. "That bastard!" He slammed the laptop shut, body trembling with rage, voice raspy. "He dared!" I raised my glass, sipped my wine, eyes calm as I looked at him. "Mr. Grant, now, shall we talk partnership?" My gaze was sharp, like the final chess piece placed firmly on the board, and in that moment, I knew I had secured the win. Stephen was a smart man. He understood that siding with us, taking down Nathan and his law firm, was the most profitable move. We reached an agreement quickly. Just as I was leaving the private club, an unexpected call came in. The voice of a middle-aged woman, choked with emotion. "Ms. Jessica, please have mercy on Lauren. She's still young. Her life can't be destroyed like this. It was Lauren's mother. I stopped walking. Young? A woman nearly 30? It was all Nathan! He tricked her, she cried, voice cracking through her tears. He promised to marry her, promised she'd become the youngest partner at the firm. Lauren was just swept up in it. I gripped the phone tighter. And saying this now, what good does it do? It matters! She screamed, nearly hysterical. We have proof! A recording. Nathan admitting everything was his idea. If you just show Lauren some leniency, we'll give it to you. I went silent, my breath slowing. Just as expected, the betrayal phase had begun, and Lauren, like any pawn in a losing game, was ready to sell out her ally to save herself. Miss Jessica, please, the woman sobbed, her voice almost pleading. Fine, I replied, my voice cold, void of emotion. Send me the recording. How much Lauren's sentence is reduced depends on how useful it is. A few minutes later, my phone buzzed. An audio file arrived. I hit play. Nathan's voice rang out, low and confident, like a man recounting a victory. Don't worry, once I deal with Jessica, divorce her, get her shares, I'll marry you. By then the whole firm will be ours. Lauren giggled. Ha, that old man? He'll retire soon enough. Once you're the biggest shareholder, first thing we do is kick him out. Nathan's voice dripped with contempt. Jessica? She's just a stupid woman, fooled for 10 years, and still thinks I love her. If it weren't for her father, I would have divorced her long ago. Every word stabbed through my chest like a blade, but I sat there expressionless, eyes fixed on the screen, listening to every second. I forwarded the file to two people, Stephen Grant and the old man Nathan referred to, Edward Brooks, founder of the law firm, the one who once saw Nathan as a son. Once that was done, I drove to Lake Michigan, rolled down the window, letting the night air rush in, carrying with it a chill and the faint scent of lake water. The lights of high-rises shimmered on the surface, like shattered pieces of a decade-long love. Turns out, nothing but a joke. I gave him my love, but it had all been part of Nathan's 10-year plan. My phone rang. Nathan's name lit up the screen. I declined. He called again. And again. Finally, I picked up, but said nothing. Jessica, where are you? His panicked voice cracked through the speaker. Did you send something to Stephen and the chairman? I stared out at the water. Nathan, the game is over. No. Jessica, wait. Let me explain. It's not what you think. It was all Lauren. She seduced me. I've always loved you. Nathan. Really? That's too bad. Because I don't need that kind of love anymore. The next day, Chicago's entire legal and financial world was shaken. Nathan's law firm exploded in scandal. A senior partner was implicated in insider trading and stock manipulation, triggering an SEC investigation. The firm's stock plummeted. Countless investors were wiped out. Nathan, the man at the center, became a pariah, a rat scurrying through the streets. The charges of trade secret theft, betrayal of business partners, emotional manipulation were more than enough to bring him down. I watched the news footage of Nathan being escorted by police. He still wore a designer suit, but he looked haggard, worn, defeated. Through the screen, I caught his eyes, filled with a haunting mix of desperation and hatred. At that moment, I was sitting on the sofa in my dad's office, sipping coffee. Is everything handled? Dad asked. It's done. What do you plan to do next? Get the divorce finalized, maybe take another course, rest for a while. Dad nodded, saying nothing more. That afternoon, I received an email from Nathan's mother. She expressed her deep disappointment, claiming I had disrespected the sanctity of marriage and sent her son to jail. I didn't reply. I just archived the email. People like that. Any word is a waste. A week later, the divorce ruling arrived. Nathan and I, officially and completely severed. On the day I held the court papers, I visited the prison. Through the glass, Nathan sat in his jumpsuit, gaunt and pale. When he saw me, he lunged for the phone, his voice rasping with fury. "Jessica, you heartless bitch. Even if I become a demon, I won't forgive you." I picked up the phone, looking at him calmly. "Nathan, I came today to tell you one thing. The necklace you gave Lauren, I designed it myself." I paused, watching his face go rigid. "The N and L on the charm? It doesn't stand for Nathan and Lauren. I meant liar and you, because the liar was you." His pupils contracted. "You really thought you could steal the Starlight merger documents without anyone knowing? The draft you photocopied was a fake. I planted it. The real one? I sent it to the board 10 minutes before the meeting. What you sold to Bright Future was nothing but scrap paper." Nathan's face turned dark purple, his eyes glaring like he could devour me. "Why?" he gritted out, jaw clenched. "No reason," I said, rising to my feet. I looked at him one last time. "I was the one who lifted you to the top. I can just as easily watch you be crushed." I turned and walked away. Behind me, his screams echoed through the glass. But none of it had anything to do with me anymore. 3 months later, I completed all my paperwork and prepared to fly to Boston to study at Harvard. Before boarding, I scrolled through my phone. A news alert popped up. CEO Stephen Grant of Bright Future, arrested for massive corporate bribery scandal. I smiled slightly and turned off the screen. In this world, there's no hatred without cause, and no love without cost. The plane took off, piercing through layers of cloud. The Boston air was crisp and cool. I rented a small apartment near Harvard and began a new chapter of my life. Each day, I went to class, visited the library, stopped by museums, or sat by the Charles River feeding pigeons. It had been a long time since I felt this peaceful. One day, in an art gallery, I saw a painting. A woman stood at the edge of a cliff, her back to the abyss, her face turned toward the sunrise. On her face, no fear, only calm and hope. The gallery owner, an elegant elderly lady, smiled and said, "This one's called Rebirth." Rebirth, I smiled. Yes, rebirth. On my last day in Boston, I got a call from Chris. "Jessica, the sentencing's in. Nathan got 15 years. Lauren got 7. The next day, I booked a flight back to Chicago. As the plane descended, the city lights below reminded me that everything was behind me now. Dad came to pick me up. When he saw me, he paused. "You've lost weight. And tanned, too." He grabbed my suitcase, muttering complaints, but his eyes were full of warmth. "Dad, I'm home." I hugged him tightly. "It's good you're back." On the drive home, Dad said, "The Bright Future project, government reopened the bidding. Our company won." I looked at him in surprise. "How did you do that?" He glanced at me through the rearview mirror and smiled. "Didn't you teach me? To beat the enemy, you have to break them apart completely." I laughed at his face. This was what family truly meant. Back home, Mom had set the table with all my favorite dishes, sandwiches, salad, and chocolate chip cookies. The 3 of us sat around the table like nothing had ever gone wrong. Sunlight streamed through the window, lighting up the meal with a warm golden glow. In that moment, I realized it wasn't revenge that brought me back to life. It was choosing to rebuild my own family on my own terms. If you found out the person you trusted most had betrayed you, what would you do? Walk away in silence or rise and flip the game? Let me know in the comments. And if this story resonated with you, don't forget to like and subscribe for more.
And that wraps up today's story. Now we want to hear from you. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments, and let's see how far these stories reach. If this story moved you or gave you chills, give it a like, share, and subscribe for more powerful stories. One last thing, rate the story from 1 to 10 in the comments. Your feedback helps us bring you even better ones next time. Thanks for watching. We appreciate you being part of this storytelling journey.